Christmas Eve has a way of amplifying every silence. The house was dressed up like a catalogue. Garland draped across the banister, candles flickering in polished holders, a tree so meticulously decorated it looked more like a showroom piece than something meant for family memories. And yet, despite all the shine, I felt the hollowness in my bones the second I walked through the door. I set my boots on the mat, snow dripping from the edges, and looked up. That's when I saw it. Above the fireplace, perfectly framed in glossy black wood, hung the new family portrait. My chest tightened before my brain had time to catch up. I scanned the faces like I was grading an exam, hunting for mistakes. My mother stood in her signature red blazer, her smile carefully arranged, polished the way she wanted the world to see her. My father, same stiff grin, the one he used at golf tournaments when people he barely knew called him buddy. And front and center, predictably, my sister, laughing mid-pose as if she'd been caught in some candid moment. Except we all knew her spontaneity was rehearsed down to the tilt of her chin. But me, I wasn't there. Not blurred, not shoved awkwardly at the edge, not even half hidden, just gone. Cleanly erased like scissors had sliced me out of the glossy paper. My history amputated from theirs. The breath I pulled in was sharp enough to sting. I stood frozen for 4 seconds, maybe 5. Long enough to know the truth. Short enough that no one noticed. Or maybe they did and simply didn't care. From the kitchen, my mother's voice floated, light and cheerful. "Dinner's almost ready," she called, as if nothing were wrong, as if the gaping absence above the fireplace wasn't screaming louder than any carol. I hung up my coat and stepped inside, letting the smell of rosemary and lemon wrap around me. Once, that scent meant warmth and comfort. Now it felt like a weapon, an illusion of care covering rot beneath. My sister was already waiting, wine glass in hand, swirling it like she was the host of her own talk show. She leaned in for an air kiss, careful not to let her lips touch my cheek. "You made it," she said, as though I'd been late to her personal holiday gala. I forced a smile. The tired kind, the one you wear when screaming into a pillow, has stopped feeling therapeutic and started feeling pointless. Dinner unfolded like theater. My dad carved the roast with deliberate precision, overacting his role as the benevolent patriarch. My mother praised my sister's glowing skin twice in one sitting, each compliment sharp as glass when it skipped right past me. The only question directed my way came from Dad, and even that was half-hearted. "Still driving that little car?" Translation: "We don't actually know or care how you're doing, but here's a surface-level probe so we can pretend." I didn't bite. I just nodded, stabbing my potatoes, letting the silence form a wall between us. Then came the gifts. My sister unwrapped a vintage gold watch, its receipt tucked so carelessly beneath the paper that I couldn't miss the 4-figure price tag. She gasped, glowing under the praise like the sun itself had been invented for her wrist. My turn. A novelty mug. White ceramic, stamped with red letters. Somebody's favorite daughter. A joke, apparently. Except nobody laughed. I excused myself early, citing fatigue, and carried my coat upstairs to the guest room. Not my room. Not your old room. Just the guest room. Impersonal sheets, dust along the bookshelf, a lamp that flickered every time someone breathed near it. I sat on the bed, flicked the lamp on, and stared at the envelope resting in my bag. Thick ivory paper. Embossed seal. Heavy in my hands. I had thought about waiting until morning. Thought maybe I'd let them play out their charade of stockings and cinnamon rolls, all smiles and performance. But standing in that living room earlier, staring at the photo where my existence had been sliced away like mold off bread, changed my mind. They hadn't merely forgotten me. They had erased me, intentionally and surgically, as though my presence was an inconvenience. That envelope carried my answer, proof of everything they thought they could hide. I lay back, listening to the familiar house creak and settle. My father's snore rattled faintly through the wall. My mother's voice drifted up once, something about the good plates. My sister laughed, her practiced, breathy laugh, the soundtrack of every holiday. I closed my eyes and let the years roll back. Times they dismissed my achievements. The scholarships I earned on my own. The jobs I juggled while they funneled money into her hobbies. The birthdays they forgot, the milestones they ignored. The nights I wondered if maybe I was the problem. But tonight there was no doubt. Tonight I had proof. And in the morning, when the house filled with cinnamon-sweet air and scripted cheer, I would place that envelope on their polished table, watch them open it, and let the truth finally do the screaming for me. For once, I didn't feel powerless. For once I felt steady. This wasn't just another holiday to survive. It was the beginning of their reckoning. Morning arrived wrapped in cinnamon and stage joy. The smell of rolls baking drifted up the stairs, sweet enough to choke me. For a moment, I just lay there in the guest room, staring at the ceiling fan that hadn't spun in years. The lamp still flickered on the nightstand like it was gasping for air. I could already imagine the performance waiting downstairs. Laughter too loud, compliments too scripted, the illusion of family harmony rehearsed for decades. I wasn't in the mood to join the sitcom set. Still I rose, brushed the wrinkles from my clothes, and slipped the envelope into my coat pocket. Heavy. Waiting. When I walked into the kitchen, Mom was plating scrambled eggs like she was styling a magazine shoot. Dad scrolled his phone at the table, posture lazy but jaw tight. My sister sipped almond milk from a wine glass, because of course she did. "Good morning," Mom chirped without looking up. "Hope you slept okay in the guest room." "The mattress has a personality," I said. She laughed, assuming it was a joke. It wasn't. Breakfast was just another rehearsal. No one asked about my job, my life, my health. My sister dominated the airspace with talk of Barcelona. Her upcoming trip, her stress over luggage, the oh-so-heavy burden of deciding which designer shoes to pack. My parents nodded along, glowing like she was Moses delivering commandments. I sipped coffee, invisible, counting the seconds until I could leave. The living room glimmered with gift wrap and twinkling lights when we moved to the tree. My sister tore into boxes with perfect squeals, holding up handbags and coats like she'd won prizes on a game show. Mom clapped, Dad beamed, the whole thing a tableau of curated joy. No one noticed when I slid into a chair and set my coffee down. No one noticed when I pulled the envelope from my coat and placed it quietly on the reclaimed wood table, half hidden among ribbons and shredded paper. 10 minutes passed. Then Mom spotted it. Her eyes narrowed the way they always did when something unapproved marred her perfect surfaces. She lifted it gingerly, frowning at the embossed seal. "What's this?" she asked, voice light but sharp. "It's from me," I said. Dad chuckled, still tearing paper from another box. "You didn't have to get us anything," he said, smiling like I'd handed over a novelty tie. "I know," I replied. My voice was steady even. "I wanted to." That changed the air. Mom sat back down, turning the envelope over in her hands. "Should we open it now?" Shrugged. "I'd rather you didn't." So of course they did. Her fingers broke the seal with surgical care. Dad leaned in over her shoulder. The paper slid free, heavy and official. The silence thickened as her eyes scanned, flipping from one page to the next, her breath hitching. "What is it?" my sister asked, clutching the handles of her new tote. No one answered. I sipped my coffee and let the moment breathe. Then I said softly, "You knew." Mom's head snapped up. Dad's face drained of color. My sister's confusion spread like fog. "Know what?" she demanded. I stood slow and deliberate. "Merry Christmas," I said. "That's a copy of Grandpa's will." Mom blinked fast. "I've seen his will. We handled the estate." "No," I said. "You handled what you wanted me to see. You never showed me the full will. You told me he left a few keepsakes and some cash. But the real will." I tapped the table. "That one names me the sole beneficiary of the rental property in Old Briar." Dad's hands tightened on the armrest. "Where did you get this?" "Public records. Title searches. Tax filings. Patient lawyer. Turns out the truth isn't that hard to find, if you're willing to look. My sister finally spoke. Wait, what rental property? The one you used for your photo shoot last year, I said. By the park. That one. Her mouth opened but no sound came. Mom tried to recover, her voice soft, careful, the boutique return tone she used when she wanted something smoothed over. Sweetheart, this isn't what it looks like. That's funny, I said, smiling. Because it looks exactly like you stole my inheritance and used it to bankroll her lifestyle. Dad slammed the papers onto the table like they were on fire. You don't understand. It's complicated. It's not, I said. The will is clear. Sole beneficiary. Full title. Transferred. Which means all that rent you collected. Stolen. Those renovations. Unauthorized. Every dime you pulled from it. Fraud. You wouldn't have wanted the responsibility, Mom tried again. You were always busy, always so far away. I was far away, I cut in, because you made sure I wasn't welcome here. The silence after that was sharp enough to cut skin. Dad rubbed his temples like this was giving him a migraine. You need to calm down. And you, I said, turning to him, need a lawyer. He froze. I'm not suing, I added. Yet. But the title's already been transferred back. The tenants have been notified. Rent payments come to me now. Your access to the house is revoked. My sister finally found her voice, shrill and cracking. But that property paid for my tuition. And the car. And I know, I said. It paid for Barcelona too. And handbags. And vacations. All with money that wasn't yours. That's not fair, she snapped. Fair. I laughed once. You think fairness lives in this house? Mom's eyes glistened. We depended on that income. Then maybe, I said, leaning closer, you shouldn't have stolen it. Her voice cracked. We're family. No, I said, cold and steady. You're people I used to be related to. There's a difference. The silence that followed wasn't peaceful. It was loaded, heavy, a silence that made the walls groan. My dad stared at the envelope like it might explode. My mom's hands trembled. My sister looked like she'd lost her spotlight. I slid my coat over my shoulders. Wait, Mom whispered. Can't we talk about this? You just did, I said. For years. Every time you left me out. Every time you lied. Every time you decided I didn't matter. Dad's jaw was rigid. If you walk out now, don't bother coming back. Paused at the door. Turned once, met his eyes. I think that's the first thing we've agreed on. Then I stepped outside. The cold air hit me like a baptism. Clean. Dark. Real. I breathed, steady and unbroken, as the house behind me sat heavy with silence and truth. The engine hummed beneath me as I pulled away from the house, snow crunching under the tires. I didn't look back. Not once. Not at the windows glowing with holiday lights. Not at the wreath hanging on the door. Not at the shadows moving inside. Let them keep their carefully staged Christmas. I had taken something they couldn't fake away. The truth. The drive home felt unreal, like I was gliding between two worlds. On one side, the polished picture they had always demanded of me. On the other, the quiet, steady power I finally held in my own hands. For once, my lungs filled with air that didn't taste like compromise. I thought I might cry, or laugh, or scream, but I did none of those things. I just breathed, because sometimes silence is the loudest sound in the world. 3 weeks passed before the first message came. It was from Mom. Polite, short, polished. Like she'd written and rewritten it 5 times, trimming away the sharp edges until it was nothing but a brittle shell. Hi sweetheart, we think there's been a misunderstanding. Can we chat sometime this week? Hope you're well. Love you. No punctuation at the end. Just love you, dangling awkwardly like a coat on the wrong hook. I didn't respond. 2 days later another message came. This one more urgent. Please don't let this one thing ruin everything. Your sister is very upset. Dad's trying to stay calm, but you know how he gets when he feels blindsided. Blindsided. The word twisted in my gut. The irony of it all. Not blindsided when they stole my inheritance. Not blindsided when they cut me from a photo. Blindsided only now, because their scheme had been caught. I muted the conversation. A week later, a letter showed up in my mailbox. Real paper, real ink. Mom's handwriting looping in careful curves. She wrote about family and forgiveness. About not letting money come between us. As if this was about money. As if decades of erasure could be boiled down to a ledger. I tore it once, then again until it was nothing but confetti. I remembered all the moments they had erased me before. My 8th birthday, when 6 friends sat in my living room eating cheese slices on crackers because Mom forgot to order pizza. My sister had a recital the next day, so the party ended early. We'll make it up to you next year, they'd said. They never did. Or the time I won the state science competition, called home full of pride, only to get a text back. Nice job, smiley face. Nothing more. Meanwhile, when my sister landed a shampoo commercial, they threw her a party with balloons and a cake that read Future Star. They hadn't forgotten me. They had chosen her. Over and over again. The weeks blurred into quiet. My phone stayed heavy with unanswered messages, each one increasingly desperate. Or family. You don't understand how hard things have been. Can't we meet halfway? Meet halfway. After they'd stolen everything. After they'd painted me invisible in my own story. I didn't answer. Instead, I poured myself into the life I had built without them. I met deadlines at work. I replaced the used mattress I'd been sleeping on with one brand new, firm and steady. I took long walks in the cold air, my breath clouding in front of me like proof I was still here, still real. And slowly, I began to see it clearly. They had needed me silent. They had needed me erased because my existence interrupted their performance. As long as I played the part of the overlooked one, the forgotten one, they could shine in their roles. But the second I claimed my place, their script collapsed. The calls dwindled by February. Desperation always has an expiration date. My sister posted vacation photos from Barcelona, smiling wide with her wine glass, carefully angled so the background sparkled. Mom liked every post. Dad commented with thumbs up emojis. They carried on the performance, their world intact. Only this time I wasn't watching from the sidelines. I wasn't part of it at all. And for the first time in years that felt like freedom. I visited the property one crisp morning in March. The house by the park stood tall, sunlight catching on its windows. The tenants waved when I arrived, relief written in their eyes when I introduced myself as the rightful owner. Their rent would no longer vanish into someone else's pocket. Their trust would no longer be misplaced. Standing in that living room, I felt something I hadn't known in years, solid ground beneath my feet. Not because of the bricks or the deed or the money, but because I had taken back what was mine. I had stopped being the blurry background character in my own life. Later that night a final email came through. Short. From Dad this time. We did what we thought was best. Don't punish us forever. At the end of the day, we're still your parents. I read it twice, 3 times, and then I deleted it. Because here was the truth. Parents aren't just biology. They're choices repeated day after day. They're the people who show up, who see you, who make space for you. And mine had chosen again and again to cut me out. Maybe they thought love was automatic, unconditional, something I'd keep handing over no matter what they did. Maybe they thought blood was enough. But love is a verb. And theirs had always been past tense. The next morning, sunlight spilled through my apartment windows, warm and golden. I made coffee, poured it into the somebody's favorite daughter mug they'd given me, and laughed. Really laughed, for the first time in years. Because they were right about one thing. I was somebody's favorite daughter. And sometimes the loudest scream isn't raised at all. It's walking away. It's reclaiming what was stolen. It's deciding you'll never again wait for permission to matter. That day I raised my mug, whispered cheers to the empty room, and meant it. Because finally I wasn't erased. I was whole,